More reforms are coming to Canada's immigration and asylum systems. Immigration Minister Mark Miller is facing criticism for not sharing the government's full plan on what those changes look like when he announced reductions to our targets last month. What reforms can we expect to see? Let's bring in Chantal Deloge, who is an immigration and refugee lawyer with the Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association. Boy, you must be very popular. Lots of questions these days. Authorities, yes. Chantal, have known about border security and staffing shortages for years. And I say staffing shortages because when Minister Miller was asked about problems in the system, he says there's not enough people to process, but they hire those people. So how do you explain the sudden about-face and the mea culpas we're seeing from the federal government and this urgency now behind changing immigration and asylum systems?
Yes, I think there's two things motivating it. First of all, it's Canadian public opinion. It's very important to the federal government and to society in general to keep Canadians on side with a robust immigration system because our demographic needs it. We're not having enough babies in Canada, so we need immigration overall, and we need people to feel positive towards it. But also, I think what's particularly lighting the fire underneath them right now is these threats coming from south of the border. And I think even just optics-wise, the government feels a need right now to look a little bit tough on immigration and on border security. Canada
has also seen a huge rise in asylum claims this year from international students. And I don't use the description huge very lightly. Nearly 14,000 claimed asylum this year after being on study permits. You compare that to just 3,000 in 2021. That's 4 times the amount of claims. Why are we seeing a spike?
I think there are two reasons. First of all, when you start to close certain doors on people, they will look for other doors that are open. That's a natural human reaction. I would just caution people against making assumptions that international students are not necessarily genuine refugees. It's not necessarily the case. There would be a lot of international students that would be genuine refugees, but they didn't need to claim asylum before because they had other pathways to get immigration in a regular manner, which everybody always prefers to do it that way. Often people look at refugee status as a last resort.
President-elect Trump has accused Canada of poor border security, particularly along this northern border. I'm curious, how many irregular crossings are we seeing right now? Where are the vulnerable spots in the country? And when Trump says that there are migrants flowing across the border into the U.S., do we know the number?
Well, that's a ridiculous overstatement. I mean, I had a look at the numbers. I think in 2024, there were about maybe 200,000 apprehensions along the entire border with Canada. If you compare that to their southern border, that is just a small drop in the bucket. And that could be anything. That could be anything from a Canadian person going across the border and looking to work illegally. You know, like these kinds of things, they happen on both sides of the border every day. That's not necessarily cause for concern. Last summer, there was a bit of a spike in people trying to walk across the border with where U.S. and Canada meet in terms of Vermont. So even then, the number is very small. Particularly when viewed in context of the southern border. I called some of my American colleagues who practice along that border area, and they only vaguely even knew about it, which tells me that, you know, it's not really a cause for concern. It's being used as a talking point in order to whip up some frenzy about this particular issue for their own internal reasons.
Chantal, when I've spoken with people who deal with migrant communities in the past, you know, there is messaging that goes out to communities in other countries about pathways to either citizenship or landing in a country like Canada. How has Canada's messaging changed to international communities when it comes to asylum and immigration?
Yeah, I mean, if you compare, you know, the public statements that are being made now by our government compared to, say, 5 years ago, you'll see a marked difference. I mean, years ago, it was, oh, we're so welcoming. You know, we need people. We need the best and the brightest. Please come here. Please come and study. You know, we need the demographics. And now it's just made a complete about face. Like, you know, if you come here to study, it does not guarantee you that you're going to be able to get immigration. It doesn't guarantee you that you're going to become a Canadian citizen. So you should only come here if you want to study and go home. I mean, it's like a black and white messaging.
Chantal Deloge is an immigration and refugee lawyer with the Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association. Great to have your input this morning, Chantal. Thank you.
Thanks.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.